The events of April 9, 2001, led to Robert William Fisher becoming the 475th fugitive added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on June 29, 2002. On the night of April 9, neighbors heard Robert and Mary arguing loudly in their home. The following morning, approximately 10 hours later, feeling his grip on his family slip from his hands, Robert re-exerted control in the more horrific way possible. Robert murdered Mary by slitting her throat and then putting a bullet in the back of her head. Then, he moved on to his children, whose lives he ended by slitting their throats from ear to ear. At 8:42 a.m., neighbors of the Fishers awoke to a thundering boom. The Fisher house had exploded and gone up in flames, creating such a concussion that the explosion was felt up to almost half a mile away.
This house completely destroyed.
Being an ex-Californian, I thought it was an earthquake.
The living area is collapsed. It took us probably about 25 minutes to put out the fire.
And in the ashes of what was once the South Scottsdale home of Robert Fisher, his wife Mary and their two children, 10-year-old Bobby and 13-year-old Brittany, the grisly discovery. Mom and the two kids found slaughtered in their beds, and the home then rigged like a bomb to cover the killer's tracks.
At this point, we now know that it is a triple homicide.
On July 19, 2001, a state arrest warrant was issued for Robert William Fisher. Police charged the monstrous husband and father with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of arson. However, the hunt for Robert began immediately after the fire, and it didn't take long for investigators to find clues as to his movements immediately prior to and following the crime. Investigators found footage of Robert at an ATM on the night before the murders. The amount of money he took out of the ATM was odd, just $280. This was believed to be a way of Robert brazenly leaving behind a crumb of evidence for the police. A week after the murders, Mary Fisher's 4Runner SUV was found miles away in the woods near Young, Arizona. Robert's beloved dog was found guarding the vehicle, but Robert himself was not there.
The area where the 4Runner was found was one that Robert knew intimately. It was a frequent camping spot for the cold-blooded killer. Just days before Robert's car was discovered, now retired Scottsdale Police Detective T.J. Gearan received a phone call from a couple who saw a man walking toward the highway. As they passed him, the wife recognized him as Robert William Fisher. It is assumed that Robert left the area on foot and could be literally anywhere.
Some individuals who are familiar with Robert believe he committed suicide. According to some friends, when Mary kicked Robert out of the house, Robert went to the woods and contemplated suicide.
Others, including many investigators, believe Robert is still alive and left his 4Runner and his dog behind as a red herring. As an avid outdoorsman, Robert would be capable of living off the land for lengthy periods. Many tips have come into the FBI, but it's not known if they've provided any legitimate information as to Robert's whereabouts. One thing the tips Haven T led to is the location and capture of Robert William Fisher. Almost 20 years after the murders of Mary, Brittany, and Bobby Fisher, there is no sign of the self-centered man who was so desperate to remain in control that he took his wife and children in his arms and brutally murdered them.